Everybody tells you to dream big. Everybody tells you that you should set unrealistic or smart goals, whatever, okay? But आपने नोटिस किया होगा कि every New Year's, every birthday, every 6 months, or there's this time when you feel so motivated and you're like कि हाँ मैं सारे goals, I will set goals, I will achieve them, I'll completely transform my life, I'll have a glow up. But then 2 weeks later you're back to square one. And I'm sure ये सबके साथ होता है, whether you accept it or not. So if you want to learn how to actually set goals that give you the results that you want in practicality, not just in your head or not just on a vision board, then stick with me. So with that being said, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kimya and I am determined to de-influence teens and talk about things that actually matter. So with that being said, let us get into it. ओके तो सबसे पहली जो बात आती है ना, दैट इज़ द फैक्ट दैट गोल्स फील वेरी एक्साइटिंग. मतलब जैसे कि मैंने अभी आपको बताया कि जैसे कि मंडे होता है या फिर न्यू ईयर्स होता है, न्यू ईयर रेजोल्यूशंस आर लाइक everybody knows how that goes, and then 6 months later you're back to how you were, or probably even worse, who knows. But rarely it happens that you actually stick to your goals. What do you do on New Year's? You are like, I'll lose 10 kgs, I'll start learning a new language, or I'm going to get better at studying and everything. But then life happens and then things just go back to how they were before. So the point here is that when you set goals now, you feel like you are doing something very productive and that you're going to stick with it forever. But mark my words, you won't. अभी लोग गोल्स सेट इसलिए करते हैं ना क्योंकि इट फील्स वेरी एक्साइटिंग एंड थ्रिलिंग दैट ओ माई गॉड, आई एम गोइंग टू हैव दिस ड्रीम लाइफ and everything is going to go exactly how I planned it. But trust me, life is going to slap you hard in the face after 1 month, 2 months, or even weeks, who knows. So that is why it is important to build something that actually sticks even on your worst days. It is not just enough to have a deadline in your mind, but it is also important that you know how to get to that deadline, right? So this is where systems come into practice. But before that, we need to get into something else. Okay, so before I talk more about systems, let me tell you the problem with goals. The problem with goals is that it only gives you a deadline. For example, a goal can be, I want to lose 10 kgs, or I want to become the topper of my class. These are all very valid goals, but they are very vague and they're just like, it's more like a fantasy than a goal. You get what I'm saying, right? So, and fantasies rarely ever come true, so you need to build something that actually sticks, right? तो अभी प्रॉब्लम यही होता है गोल्स के साथ कि गोल्स तो आप सेट कर लेते हो लेकिन वो कभी अचीव होने ही नहीं वाले. लिख के ले लो, because we are humans, we are wired to sort of reach for the easiest thing, and there are going to be days when you're going to feel like absolute crap. So the only problem with goals is that they give you a deadline and they just feel exciting, but they actually do not help you get to where you're trying to go. So this is where systems win the battle. Now let me tell you how to set actual systems that work. अभी मैंने आपको बताया कि गोल्स के साथ प्रॉब्लम क्या होती है, राइट? बट अभी लेट्स टॉक अबाउट सिस्टम्स फर्स्ट. नाउ व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय सिस्टम? व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय अ सिस्टम? ओके, so first of all, a system is something that helps you where you're trying to go by giving you the exact breakdown of what you need to do in order to get there. This is where the main distinction between a system and a goal happens. Correct? तो अभी जैसे कि मैंने आपको बताया कि सपोज यू वांट टू लर्न अ न्यू लैंग्वेज, सो दैट कैन बी योर गोल, ठीक है? बट अ सिस्टम विल टेल यू दैट ओके, you want to learn a new language, right? So how are you going to do that in order to be able to speak a new language in the next 2 years or 1 year or whatever your time frame may be, right? So a system can be something like, okay, I'm going to download this app, or I'm going to join this coaching class, and I'm going to spend 1 hour, 15 minutes, 30 minutes every single day so that I can get better and I can get to where I'm trying to go. That is a system. See the difference? Now, this is exactly why systems are so popular and they work, because they genuinely work. Now, why do they work? Because they help you survive your worst days. Yeah, let that sink in. सी मोटिवेशन के साथ काम करना, तो मोटिवेशन के साथ तो सब लोग काम कर सकते हैं, राइट? बट द रियल मैजिक इज़ व्हेन यू एक्चुअली शो अप ऑन द डेज यू फील लाइक शिट. दैट इज़ रियल कंसिस्टेंसी, दैट इज़ डिसिप्लिन. बट ऐसे हर बार नहीं होगा दैट यू नो एवरी मॉर्निंग यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू वेक अप एनर्जेटिक and feel like, oh my god, I'm going to work towards my goals, I'm going to crush today. Sometimes you might be ill, sometimes you might just need a mental health day, you know, it can be anything, literally anything in the world that will stop you from working towards where you're trying to go. So that is where systems come into practice. क्योंकि सिस्टम आपको बताता है, when you build a system, it tells you exactly what you need to do. So it reduces decision fatigue, and trust me, that's a game changer. Because अगर आपको ऑलरेडी पता है ना आपको क्या करना है, कैसे करना है, कितनी देर के लिए करना है, देन यू आर मच मोर लाइकली टू डू इट दैन समथिंग दैट यू डोंट इवन नो व्हाट यू आर डूइंग. ठीक है, तो इसीलिए सेटिंग सिस्टम्स इज ऑलवेज अ मच मच मोर प्रैक्टिकल वे टू गेट वेयर यू आर ट्राइंग टू गो. Okay, so let me give you like a real life example to sort of make you understand what I'm trying to say. Let's talk about New Year's. Okay, New Year resolution, it's the 1st of January 2027, right? And you are very hyped up, you're very motivated, and you're like कि no, I'm gonna crush this year, this is my year and this and that, right? लेकिन वो motivation कब तक रहेगा? Okay, और अब ठीक है 1st जनवरी को आप बहुत मोटिवेटेड हो, आपने पूरी लिस्ट बना ली कि इस साल मुझे ये अचीव करना है, मुझे यूट्यूब पे वीडियोस डालने हैं, मुझे ये लैंग्वेज सीखनी है, मुझे इतने मार्क्स लाने हैं, मुझे यू नो ये सब करना है, आई वांट टू हैव माय ड्रीम बॉडी, एवरीथिंग यू राइट. ओके, एंड देन February, March, April, May, where did those goals go? You probably even threw that paper into the dustbin and you are exactly where you were in December of 2026, right? So that is what I'm saying. But if on a random day, it does not have to be New Year's, okay? You don't need a new year to change your life. You can start today. In fact, it is better to start today, because by the end of December 2026 you'll already have a 6 months ka heads up. Isn't that amazing? Okay, anyways, so instead of saying ki I want to, I have this big list of goals that I need to achieve, but I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know what I'm going to do. Instead of that, you can actually sit down and write every single thing. For example, let's just say that you want to get fit or you want to start playing a new sport. So instead of just saying that I want to start playing badminton or I want to be very good at playing badminton by the end of the next year, you can say that, okay, I want to play badminton. Now you need to figure out how exactly are you going to do that. Which coaching are you going to join? Which academy is the best in your area? How much is the distance? How much time will you be investing every single day? Are you willing to do that? And are you willing to actually make those changes in your diet, in your routine, to actually get where you're trying to go? These are very uncomfortable questions, but trust me, inke bina you will not get where you're trying to go. So this is what I mean by setting systems and not goals. Okay, so last but not the least, I want to tell you why people quit. ठीक है, अभी जैसे नया साल है, बहुत अभी नहीं है बट होने वाला है, राइट? तो आपको बहुत ऐसे मोटिवेशन रहेगा ना. तो मेन मिस्टेक दैट पीपल मेक इज़ दैट दे रिलाई सोनली ऑन मोटिवेशन. अगर मैं आज मोटिवेटेड हूँ तो ही मैं पढ़ाई करूँगी, अगर मैं मोटिवेटेड नहीं हूँ तो मैं पढ़ाई नहीं करूँगी, मैं नेटफ्लिक्स देखूँगी, मैं कुछ भी करूँगी, बट मैं पढ़ाई नहीं करूँगी. एंड दैट इज़ एग्जैक्टली द माइंड सेट दैट कीप्स यू स्टक, right? You rely on motivation, it's like a recipe for disaster, because motivation is not very reliable. It's like very short lived. मतलब वो थोड़े थोड़े टाइम के लिए आता है, वो भी रोज़ नहीं आता है, बस कभी रैंडमली ऐसे आ जाता है, एंड देन इट डिसअपियर्स फॉर डेज एंड वीक्स ऑन एंड. तब क्या करोगे आप? अगर आप मोटिवेटेड नहीं हो तो आप पढ़ाई नहीं करोगे क्या? अगर आप मोटिवेटेड नहीं हो तो आप आपका स्पोर्ट खेलना छोड़ दोगे क्या? नहीं ना, यू स्टिल हैव टू शो अप. बट पीपल ऑफन क्विट बिकॉज दे आर नॉट मोटिवेटेड. You don't feel like doing it. But let me tell you a very harsh reality. Nobody gives a shit about how you feel, okay? I mean, now I'm not saying that you should get very like closed off and isolated and not talk about your feelings. That's not what I'm saying. But don't let your feelings run the show, Trust me, nobody cares if you're sad, nobody cares if you're not feeling up to it. They only care about your results. Again, I'm not saying that you should not get help when you need it. Please get help, please talk to somebody if you don't feel good, but that should not stop you from achieving your goals and your dreams and working through your system. That is what I mean when I say that nobody cares. अगर आपके पास concrete results नहीं है to show for your hard work, then nobody is going to ask for your opinion, nobody is going to respect you, and that is the uncomfortable truth that needs to be addressed, because it is truly the elephant in the room. So in the end, if there's one thing you can take away from this video, it's that first of all, set systems, don't set goals. Second of all, remember the framework of how to set a system. Answer what, where, how and when. These 4 questions are very important while setting a system. So I hope you found this very helpful, and let me know what you think about this in the comments down below, and also give me more suggestions on what videos you want next. Thanks.